I have delayed making this video because I hate to admit when I've been wrong. And it appears that the UBS report was right. Toronto is in a massive housing bubble. And it's time to sell everything. It's time to liquidate the portfolio, maybe move to Costa Rica. I want to share with you guys this article. Now get ready for a 90% collapse in Canadian real estate. The real estate bubble will burst and it could take out 90% in value. When was this article? Hold on a second. 2010. Did I pull up the wrong article here? What happened in 2010? Did this play out? 90% collapse? I don't remember that. In fact, the average price back in 2010, average price 2010, $440,000. What's the average price today? Because I don't remember seeing a home for that price recently. $1.122 million. So that's a 142% increase in that period of time. Well, that's really interesting. Let's see if the next article gives us a clearer picture. Should Canada fear housing bubble trouble? 2010. Canada's housing bubble deemed close to bursting. 2011. The Canadian housing market will crash. Prediction from 2012. Thank you, Joe. What do we have here? Analyst, Canadian home prices will plunge 25% from here, October 26, 2012. And since then, we've gone from an average price of $538,000 to, again, $1.22 million, representing a 108% increase in price, a doubling. David Rosenberg, the Canadian housing market sure looks like a bubble. 2012. Housing market booms. Experts see trouble. Some experts, man. 2013. Slowdown of Canadian housing market well underway. 2013. Canada's housing market is the third most overvalued in the world. 2014. 15% house drop possible, RBC chief says. A chart to put the Canadian housing bubble in perspective. Canadian home prices to fall 40 to 50%, financial author says. And this was 2015. Obviously, we're up 40 to 50% since then. The days of easy money in the housing market are over. 2015. 5 signs Canada's housing markets are out of control, 2015. 2015. Canada's housing market faces a looming demographic bubble. 2016. This is a bubble, a very big bubble, and it's going to end in tears. Well, I don't personally know anybody who bought in 2016 who is crying, maybe crying with joy, but they're not upset about their gains. And the next one here, David Rosenberg, make no mistake, the Toronto real estate is in a bubble of historic proportions. So where were prices in April of 2017? Well, you could get a detached for $1.56 million. Today, that same detached, 1.78. So 14% gain since this article was released. Condo, $551,000 at this time, and $740,000 today. So that's a 34% increase in that time. And I can just go down the list here, guys. There's endless articles, right? Here's the UBS report. From back in 2018, Toronto actually has the most overvalued homes. Great, thanks. What is this, Narcity? Yeah, quality reporting at Narcity, we all know. This is how Canada's housing correction begins, 2019. Anyways, I could go down the list. You get the point of my story here. Just to put things in perspective, I wanted to share these articles because every year there are new housing bubble articles. People tend to get very spooked very easily, but you can go back to 1970s and find Maclean's article on the Toronto housing bubble. Obviously, if you bought a home in Toronto in 1970 and you held it through to today, you've done amazingly well for yourself, and that is the value in having a long time horizon and not focusing on, can I make $100,000 this year? Just buy the asset when it financially makes sense, whether it's an investment or your primary residence, and make sure you can withhold through dips and corrections, because if you can hold through the corrections, if you're focused on a 10, 20, 30-year hold, you can almost be sure you are going to do incredibly well. Just to put things in perspective, if prices crash today, Scott Ingram did a really good article he released on Twitter. And he shows you the correction amount and what day that brings us back to. So if the housing market corrected 10%, for example, we would go back to February of 2021. And this is condos. So let's look at detached. If we saw a 10% correction in today's housing prices, we would go back to April of this year, 6 months. 20% correction would bring us back to December of last year, 10 months. A 30% correction is huge, guys. A 30% correction would bring us back 2 years, 7 months to March of 2019. A whopping 50% correction, which if you think a 50% correction is in the cards here, you're absolutely crazy. If housing in Toronto corrects 50%, then something big happened, and I think housing is probably the least of your concerns. But anyways, that would only bring us back to 2015. So anybody calling for a collapse in 2010 or 2011, even today, like not only were they directionally incorrect, they weren't just early. They couldn't have been more wrong, right? And this is what I tell everyone. Like if buying an investment property is going to stretch you financially, if a 10% decrease in rental rates or a 20% decrease in rental rates is going to bankrupt you, then buying an investment property is not for you. If you have to sell your pre-construction condo on assignment because you cannot afford to close, buying an investment property is not for you. You're not ready. You're not there yet. Focus on saving more money. Focus on earning more money. It's too early. You're stretching yourself too thin. That is not good because there are corrections, right? You look at the history of Toronto housing prices. You look at, the early 90s, and that's the most notable crash because it took a decade to recover from that. And then, of course, you've got 2008. You've got minor dips in both condos and freehold housing. And then, of course, you have 2017 where, freehold properties in York region and Peel region got hit particularly hard. Condos downtown did particularly amazing because we were, at the largest historical gap in price between a condo and a detached. And by the way, we're right back there today. And that's part of the reason I'm so bullish on condos over the medium-term future. We're right back to $1 million price difference between your average detached, average condo in Toronto, which to me is just ripe for market correction. But anyways, the overall point of this video is not to be taken too seriously, guys. I'm just pointing out that every year there are new housing bubble articles, regardless of what the market looks like. There's always going to be analyst predictions, and the very nature of price predictions, guys. If you're going to go out there with the notion that you're going to time the market, that's a bad way to be approaching investing. The reality is, if you could accurately time financial markets at all, you would already be a billionaire, right? You'd be retired on an island sipping a Mai Tai. Like you would not be looking at this stuff every day. It's the best thing for you to do is just to buy when you're financially able to without stretching yourself too thin, and lower your time expectations, like extend your time horizon. Look at 20, 30, 40-year holds rather than short-term profits. Like that's not what the housing market is for. The macro, the overwhelming picture, the reason I remain so bullish on Toronto real estate is simply because of our immigration targets and the fact that we cannot seem to deliver more units in any period of time, right? So we're building less housing despite having more immigration, and that just spells the perfect conditions for housing prices to continue to appreciate. If you look at our immigration targets, it appears we're going to hit them because we just posted the highest single month immigration gain in 100 years. So anyways, that's all I've got for this video for you guys. If you want more on the underbuilding and the economics behind, supply and demand, I've got other videos for that. Go watch them, and I will see you guys next video.